Good afternoon. This is a foundational workshop in a series of trainings on nonviolent crisis precaution. Today we will be talking about de-escalation, that is, building skills to reduce the risk of crisis and critical incidents, as well as introducing the critical incident triage protocol designed to assist staff in navigating and effectively managing critical incidents as they occur. Let's begin by unpacking the words crisis and critical incident. A crisis is a worst-case scenario. If someone were to end their lives or harm someone here at NSC, we would collectively agree that a crisis had occurred. After a crisis occurs, there's not necessarily opportunity for resolution. We can only attempt to cope with emotional residue and strategically think about ways to take precaution for further crises in the future. A critical incident, on the other hand, is an event that requires immediate attention and care in order to reduce the risk of an actual crisis. During our working hours at NSC, it is likely that staff has had and will have the experience of being faced with a critical incident. The critical incident team is working together to address potential incidents such as suicidality, aggression and violence, life-threatening medical issues, public health risks, and environmental safety. The team has recently drafted a critical incident triage protocol to help NSC staff differentiate what kind of incident is occurring, along with corresponding direction and guidance. In short, what to do. Today, I will present information on crisis and crisis development, teach de-escalation skills, and offer an introduction to this triage protocol. The Nonviolent Crisis Intervention, an evidence-based program, will be used to guide all of the mental health critical incident protocols and trainings. Nonviolent crisis intervention has demonstrated to be effective in resolving crisis, what we refer to as a critical incident, 84.2% of the time. Research additionally finds increased staff confidence and intervention effectiveness. Nonviolent crisis intervention embodies 4 key components. First is care, that is, showing compassion and empathy or feeling with. Welfare, or supporting the client's emotional and physical well-being. Safety, preventing danger, risk, and injury. And finally, security, or ensuring harmony, not harm. Care, welfare, safety, and security should be at the foundation of every client interaction every day, but especially during a critical incident. Nonviolent crisis intervention works in concert with a trauma-informed approach. Aligning with the 4 core principles in theory is easy. In the face of an aggressive client, however, it becomes much more difficult to put those principles into practice. When someone is yelling at you, it's easy to think and to behave as if something is wrong with them or that they are bad. This interpretation often leads even practiced clinicians to become defensive and angry themselves. Here's where the trauma-informed approach and the fundamental question comes in. It's critical to remember that many of our clients have experienced significant and sometimes ongoing traumas. That as a direct result, our clients will sometimes have difficulty regulating their emotions and behaviors. That instead of acting out a "what's wrong with you" approach, we need to constantly reframe our thinking so that we're communicating and behaving in ways that arise from a "what's happened to you" perspective. A trauma-informed approach and this fundamental question allows us to bring the 4 components of nonviolence to life in our work with clients. When we carry out an intention to try to listen, to understand, to have compassion, and practice empathy with our clients, we are most effective in communicating with and supporting them. People who have experienced trauma, particularly trauma by the hands of another human being, typically have intense feelings inside, including anger, rage, abandonment, despair, terror, and humiliation. These feelings may especially be triggered in the context of a relationship, as this is where the original traumas occurred. Given this, it's reasonable to expect that there will be situations, often unknown to us, that evoke these intense feelings, which may come out like a volcano. When we think and treat clients as if they are bad or something's wrong with them, we further contribute to their feelings of despair, abandonment, and humiliation. But when we try to understand, remember that something has happened to them, and to treat them with compassion and respect, we are then partnering with our clients and supporting them. This is the first step of de-escalation and general good practice with the clients of NSC. When a person is in intense emotional distress or is reacting to a traumatic trigger, they are in a place where they are largely unable to think clearly, process information, make decisions, or engage in problem solving. This leads to a critical incident, a situation that calls for a response that the person does not yet have or feels that they do not have. That is, at this time, the person does not have or does not feel that they have the ability to control their feelings. It is also possible that the person has never learned effective or constructive ways of dealing with particular situations. Again, this is typically related to trauma and its effects on social, emotional, and cognitive development, and therefore shapes the client's present ability to self-regulate. In these situations, it is critical that staff understand what is happening to intervene calmly, confidently, and professionally in order to address behavior that could otherwise deteriorate to a more disruptive or otherwise harmful level. In the context of today's presentation, a critical incident is a small segment of time in which staff must intervene with another person and address behaviors that may deteriorate to a more disruptive level. During the incident, it's important to take a moment to ask yourself, what is the client doing? What are they saying? What is their anxiety level? What do I want to happen? And therefore, how can I most effectively respond? Staff should constantly be asking these questions throughout the event. It's a good idea to be asking these questions throughout any human interaction as a precautionary stance. I've covered some critical information in a short amount of time, so I'm going to do a quick review of the key points and illustrate them with some simplified concepts from neuroscience and DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. It's helpful for staff to have a basic understanding of what is happening in the mind and the brain in both the escalated client and the staff member. Notice the language. A critical incident is a temporary amount of time in which a client, due to emotional distress, is stuck in their emotional mind, is unable to use their reasonable mind, and needs assistance with regulation and communication. In order to be able to bring a client back to their reasonable or wise mind, it's critical that NSC staff must be using their balanced wise mind as well. The language in this theoretical model parallels the structure of the brain found in neuroscience. The distress is the physiological symptoms, including a feeling of warmth, fast heartbeat, rapid breathing, that are all controlled by the brainstem. The emotional mind represents the limbic system of our brain, and the rational mind is the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for problem solving. The wise mind is the brain that flexibly integrates all three of these areas. If staff is to support a client through a critical incident, staff need to be prepared, grounded, and maintain confidence through these incidents. This can only be achieved if staff are familiar with the critical incident protocol, have been trained, and are practicing their own regulation skills on a daily basis. It's important to remember that all human beings have a survival response built into our brains. It is not something that can be wished away. When human beings feel highly distressed and/or threatened, they are built to respond in a reactive, physiological way. In these instances, the prefrontal cortex, or the problem-solving mind, slows, and the brainstem and limbic system take over. This is how we have survived as cavemen and women in the face of a bear. This is why sometimes people have superhuman strength during emergencies. In order to gain mastery over this part of our brain, it's important to practice some kind of self-regulating activity at least twice a week, though ideally every day. Such activities can include mindfulness, deep breathing, meditation, supervision, psychotherapy, spirituality, and/or yoga. Not only is it important for NSC staff to be grounded, but it's also important to create a calm environment. During a critical incident, this can be done by finding a private office, if this is safe for the client and staff member, and to keep staff involvement minimal. There should be 4 staff members involved at most. When a client feels out of control, it's important that staff is able to maintain control of themselves and, as much as possible, of the environment. The first step in navigating critical incidents is to try to avoid them. Remember that many of our clients are carrying around interpersonal traumas that can potentially be triggered during our work with them. It's also important to keep in mind that agitated clients may evoke our innate survival system, leading us to react in counter-effective ways. For these reasons, it's important to develop and practice a professional sense of self. Professional use of self entails being mindful and developing an intentional awareness of your role in interactions with clients and coworkers. For example, what words are you using with your clients? How might they be interpreting what you are saying? What tone of voice are you using with clients? How might they interpret this? What does your body language and other nonverbal cues say to your clients? It's important to try to be aware of the way you're presenting yourself to others. Again, this awareness can be an important way to avoid critical incidents. But it's also very important to utilize these skills during critical incidents. In an organization of many languages, words are important for many reasons. If we are working to avoid critical incidents, it's important to get into the habit of really hearing what your clients are saying to you. What is it that they're telling you? Likewise, it's important to reflect on what you are communicating to your clients. What is it that you're saying to your clients? How might they be hearing you? It's not always what words we are using, but more often how we are saying them that clients notice. Listen to the following sentence and hear the difference. I didn't say you were stupid. 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 You can notice that even how you say something to your clients may change the meaning of what it is that you're saying. Practice mindfulness of how you're saying words. Try to notice any cues for changes in anxiety level and be sure to try to repair. In other words, change how you said something. Working with an interpreter adds another level of complexity. The key is to be assessing for changes in clients' level of comfort or anxiety, share your observation, apologize if appropriate, and restate what you said in a different way. As you watch the following examples, note any indicators of anxiety that you observe. Also, note the staff member's body language and nonverbal cues. Let's take a moment to talk about what you observed in the example video. What did you notice about the staff's nonverbal behavior? I noticed that the staff were giving the client space, waiting until a client took a breath in order to start talking. I noticed that their body language was open. Their arms were down, their shoulders were down, their body was open. And I noticed that they made eye contact as appropriate, especially when apologizing. Now, what kinds of anxiety indicators in the clients did you notice? I noticed that they had sometimes a frown face, they were rapidly speaking, changes in their tone of voice. They seemed to have tense arms and hands, sometimes putting their hands in their pockets, fidgeting, pacing, knee shaking, not smiling at the staff member, not engaging with them in conversation or otherwise. They were looking at the time and, of course, using a loud voice. As we are assessing clients' body language, no doubt clients are assessing ours. What are our gestures or movements indicating to our clients? Are we able to be present with them? Are we expressing to them that their concerns are important? Are we calm or clenching? Are we looking at the client or are we preoccupied with another task? Just as it's important to be mindful of our own nonverbal cues, it's of course important to be observing our client's body language in order to assess where they are on the anxiety spectrum. A key to de-escalating agitated clients is to remain balanced and calm yourself. Check your own level of anxiety and distress, and remember to breathe. Practice deep breathing exercises like the 4-7-8 technique. Repeat repeatedly. Now that we've covered developing the professional self and doing what is in our power to reduce the risk of critical incidents, we will move on to learn about crisis development. There are often stages in which crises develop, and it's important to be able to recognize and, of course, to respond to them. First and foremost, take a supportive stance with your clients. This can be done on a daily basis and should be practiced during any escalation or critical incident. Staff should stand with one foot facing the client, the other foot at an angle. This communicates respect while honoring personal space. It is also non-threatening and offers staff an escape route if needed. Second, it's important that staff practice active, compassionate, and empathic listening. What is the person saying? Put your personal judgment aside and give undivided attention. Restate what you've heard them say. It's okay to have moments of silence. If you give people directed attention, they are more likely to feel heard and secure. As we move forward with crisis development model, we will take a moment to identify and discuss client cues of agitation as well as staff responses. The first stage, anxiety, is one in which there is a noticeable change or increase in behaviors. Behaviors that are typically a non-directed expenditure of energy, something like shaking one's leg or pacing. Each of the vignettes in the examples video demonstrates the anxiety phase and staff attitude. In order to recognize changes in client level of anxiety, think back to the discussion on professional development of self. The skills are the same. Look for words, body language, nonverbal cues, and ability for self-regulation, including changes in breathing patterns. Examples may include raised voice, rapid speech, shallow or fast breathing, pacing, wringing hands, or glaring. In this phase of agitation, staff should be supportive, using an empathic, non-judgmental approach with the goal of alleviating the client's anxiety. In this stage, it's critical to manage your own anxiety. If you are calm, you will have the power to effectively de-escalate the situation. In the anxiety phase, staff should say things like, "I see that this is distressful. I want to hear you, so let's take a minute to calm down." If you notice a change but are unsure what happened, it's appropriate to say, "It seems like you're feeling upset. Can you tell me about what happened?" If a client is preoccupied with getting a need met and seems unable to hear you, you can respond, "I see that this is important to you. I can make time to hear your concerns. Let's first do X. Then I will be sure to make time to hear your thoughts on Y." It's always a good idea to reinforce partnership. For example, "I want to work with you. I'm on your team." Responses that indicate that clients have been heard, as well as acknowledge the client's experience, are considered to be effective supportive responses. In the second, defensive stage, a client may experience a loss of rationality. This can be observed when a client seems unable to interact reasonably, when clients' emotions are unregulated, when they become belligerent, and/or when the client actively challenges authority. When a client is losing the ability to respond in a rational way, it's important for staff to temporarily take over in order to ensure continued stability, safety, and potential for return to a rational state. In this stage, staff should set limits, meaning offer reasonable choices for the client, allowing the client to feel more in control. Depending on the situation, staff should say things like, "I see you are upset and I want to work with you. When you yell at me, I feel uncomfortable and I can't really hear what you're saying. If you want to continue, I need you to please stop raising your voice. Can you agree to this? Let's take a minute to calm down. Would you like to do a breathing exercise with me? Or would you prefer to take a few moments outside?" If the client agrees, lead him or her in a 4-7-8 technique. Then follow the steps for the first stage. Regaining the supportive stance. "I'm on your team. Let's work on this together. I want to address your concerns. We do need to do X, but I can make time for both." In the third, acting out phase, the client may experience a loss of control which can result in a physical acting out episode. This might include hitting a wall, punching a desk, pushing a staff member, aggressive behavior towards self or others. If the client is physically harming anyone at NSC, staff should call 911 immediately. If a client is punching a desk, slamming hands on a desk, etc., staff should say things like, "I see you are angry, but you cannot hit my desk. This is making me feel scared and I can't work with you when I'm scared. NSC is a safe place. We need to focus on safety. Can you agree to calm down?" If the client agrees, return again to the first stage response, including leading the client in a 4-7-8. If client is able to remain calm, move forward. If client escalates again, reschedule for another day. "It seems like you are having difficulty remaining calm today. I want to work with you, but I think it will be best to reschedule for another day. I can make time on Monday or Thursday. Which will you choose?" If client will not agree to calm down, let client know that he or she must leave the NSC office and that the staff member will call client to reschedule when they are calm. "I hear that you are angry, but this is a safe place and I cannot have you hitting my desk. I need you to leave the office right now. You can call me later when you are calm, and we will reschedule our appointment for another day. I want to work with you, but we cannot do this when you are so angry. In the final phase of tension reduction, staff will notice a decrease in physical and emotional energy that occurs after a person has acted out, characterized by regaining capacity for reason. When thinking of this stage, it can be helpful to remember what goes up must come down. During this stage, staff should prioritize therapeutic rapport and attempt to re-establish communication with the individual. This is a time to consider what was the precipitating factor. Can it be addressed, and if so, how? And/or whether or not the client is emotionally able to continue the interaction. When you are in the process of de-escalation, you are continuously assessing for danger and intentionally taking actions from there. If NFC staff ever believe that staff or anyone else in the building is in danger of physical harm, call 911 immediately. If staff feels that there is not imminent danger, staff can proceed with de-escalation. As we've discussed, it's important to remain calm, to use power positively, that is, avoid power struggles. Let go of being right or winning and instead keep your goal in mind, to de-escalate the client and avoid crisis. Do not yell over a client. Calmly wait for the client to take a breath and calmly speak at a normal tone of voice. Answer any questions that are information gathering, even if they are asked rudely. For example, why do I need to do this? Do not answer questions that are abusive or insulting. Consider compromise. How can both parties get their needs met? And empower the client by giving them choices. I hear this is really urgent for you. I cannot see you today. Would you like to come in tomorrow at 11 or the next day at 9? Whenever possible, explain limits in the context of our society and institutions. If you notice that this is an ongoing trigger for conflict, i.e., clients seeing you as a withholding gatekeeper of resources, find creative ways to communicate these limits using pictures or maps. Constantly bring yourself back to the client's team. This is very frustrating. I'd like to help, but I have to follow the rules just as you do. Even though I can't help with this, I can help you with blank. As I say this, it's also important to represent yourself as part of the NSC team. It is not a good idea to reinforce or collude with clients' criticisms or insults of another team or staff member. In these cases, staff can say something like, "I'm sorry to hear that happened. We do work as a team here, and I believe we are all trying to help." Staff can support the client in reporting their concerns to the appropriate staff member. Remember your professional use of self. Your client's emotions really aren't about you, even though it can feel that way. Keep in mind that clients in a critical state are struggling to keep control of themselves and need support, not hostility. It's also important to rethink the meaning of success. We are all bound by meeting goals and outcomes, but even in this context, there are times, like critical incidents, in which we must identify a new goal. Sometimes a client may not be able to complete what we need of them. In times of critical incident, success means avoiding crisis and maintaining a supportive relationship with the client. Supportive relationship does not mean indulgence or one of friendship, but instead means a relationship that supports the client's ability to transcend challenging circumstances by engaging in services in order to build a solid foundation for a self-sustaining and dignified future. Sound familiar? It should, because it's our mission statement. Even if you aren't able to get a short-term goal complete, remember that de-escalating and teaching self-regulation skills is what the client needs first and foremost to be able to achieve this larger goal. Don't discount the importance of this. Finally, during the event, always be checking in with yourself. Who am I? i.e., professional self. Who is this person? What do we know about this person, and are they acting out of character? And what do I want to have happen? What are my goals? What do I need to do or say in order to get there? Validating someone's feelings is an important part of de-escalation. If a person is escalated, it is not a good idea to ask a client how they are feeling. This will likely make the client feel unheard and misunderstood, and even more angry. It is a good idea to make short, validating comments such as, "This is very frustrating," or, "I see you're feeling frustrated. I can see how you would feel sad. You are in a lot of pain, and I see that." These are all statements that validate a person's feelings. These kinds of statements help to disarm people. In these moments, they are more likely to feel connected with you rather than in opposition to you. It's important to be genuine. You are trying to connect with someone in order to disarm them. Let them know that you are with them, hearing them, and hold their chaos temporarily so that they can be safe. Validating is a critical part of de-escalation, and in situations where a client is escalating, validating is most effective when combined with a limit. Some examples include, "You have the right to be angry, but you cannot hit my desk." Or, "I hear you and I understand that you're getting frustrated, but it's important that you're hearing what I'm saying. Let's take a break and calm down. Would you like to do a breathing exercise with me, or would you prefer to step outside for a few minutes?" Setting limits is very important in any interpersonal relationship. We only have so many resources. All NSC staff must have limits around time, space, money, attention, and truth. This is part of developing a professional self. Clients also have limits whether they realize it or not. Our clients' limits and boundaries may be very different due to cultural differences. When clients have survived traumas, their limits may be inflexible and overprotective, or alternatively, they may be too loose. By respectfully setting limits, letting clients know what is reasonable and unreasonable teaches them how to interact with you, with others, and models how to identify and communicate their own limits. Setting limits with clients, let them know directly what behaviors are inappropriate and why. Be specific. Don't assume they know. Listen actively and empathically. Give reasonable choices with consequences. Don't force them. In every stage of development, I gave examples of how to offer choices. I can be available Monday or Thursday. Which would you choose? Would you like to do a short breathing exercise with me, or would you prefer to go outside for a few moments? These are all choices, but they are also limits. Allow time. Giving a client 5 minutes to calm down can help to reduce the risk of getting caught in a few hours of escalating and de-escalating over and over again. When setting consequences, staff must be consistent and use clear communication. It's important to note that setting limits should, as every other step, be done with the 4 components in mind. That is, with care, showing compassion and empathy, welfare, the intention of supporting the client's emotional and physical well-being, safety, preventing danger, risk, and injury, and finally, security, or ensuring harmony, not harm. Setting limits is not making a threat or an ultimatum, punishing, or about exerting power. It is about listening to what is happening with the client, hearing what the client needs, and balancing those needs with your own professional needs, as well as giving choices to A, help the client regain control, and B, find ways to help the client get their needs met. It's good practice to make time to reflect and debrief after the incident. Assess, is the person back in control? Did staff remain in control? Orient and discuss what happened with other staff members as needed. Identify patterns. Look for antecedents. Was there something that triggered the incident? Could this be avoided in the future? Investigate alternatives. If the incident might have been avoided, how? Could there have been other ways to respond to this client? Negotiate. Could there have been a written contract for the client? Or changes in the organizational protocol? Give praise to clients for self-regulating. For example, I know you were really angry. I'm glad you were able to calm down and we could get this done. Thank you. And finally, give praise to staff for their role in the incident. Working with agitated clients is not easy work. You really handled this situation well. Thank you. Reflecting and debriefing is a critical part of the de-escalation process. Some do's and don'ts to keep in mind. At this point, I just want to reiterate again that it's natural to experience anxiety or even fear during critical incidents, but that unmanaged anxiety and fear can make critical incidents worse. We are going to move forward in learning about critical incident protocol. Please remember that this is just an introduction and that it is important for you to familiarize yourself with each protocol more deeply. The more prepared you are, the more successful and effective you will be in times of stress. It's also critical to remember that you are part of a team that cares about each other and is willing to support each other during difficult times. It's really important that you make use of this team during these incidents. Never attempt to sit with an agitated or otherwise emotionally activated client in isolation. Your safety is vital. During critical incidents, please remember that this team is here for you. Now that we have learned how to de-escalate and cope with the emotional work of critical incidents, I will talk a little bit about teamwork. And to clarify, when I speak about team, I'm referring to a few teams. First, the whole organization that prioritizes the safety of all of its staff. Second, I'm referring to your colleagues who must be willing to help support the safety of one another. And finally, I'm also referring to the critical incident team. For any critical incident, we have predetermined roles that the first on scene is responsible for fulfilling. The first on scene is the person who initially hears or witnesses critical incident indicators. The first on scene will identify any colleague to serve as a support person by asking, "Would you please find me a responder?" A responder is a person who has specialized training in navigating mental health-related critical incidents. Please take note, if a staff member asks you this question, you have been nominated and elected as the support person of a critical incident. The support person is a staff member who will locate a critical incident responder, direct the responder to the client and first on scene. The support person will notify a consulting supervisor of the details and will continue to discreetly monitor the situation for safety. The support person does not participate in any other way. There is only one other possible scenario for the critical incident team. There will sometimes be an occasion when the first on scene and the critical incident responder are the same person. That is, the first person to recognize an indication of a critical incident is also a trained responder. In this case, the first on scene will identify a support person by asking, "Would you please get my client a glass of water?" So again, if a staff member asks you this question, you are selected as the support person. In this case, the support person will again notify the consulting supervisor and, of course, get a glass of water for the client, as well as continue to discreetly wait in support of the first on scene/responder. In either one of these scenarios, at the end of the meeting between the responder and the client, the support staff will wait with the client while the responder debriefs with the consulting supervisor. In the next 2 slides, we will see a short video vignette of each of these teams and how they play out.
I know that you're busy, but I think I need help. I'm feeling really bad. I can't sleep. Last night I was up and thinking, and I tried to hurt myself. And I'm worried I might do it again.
Okay, I'm really glad that you came to see me. Why don't we go to a private room and I'll find someone who can better assist you. Okay, so this is Rachel. Ellen, can you find me a responder? Sure. Thank you. So we'll go to this room right here.
Just for expediency, would it be okay for Sarah is in the office next door with a client. I think they may be suicidal. Would you be able to go help? Yes. Yes, she took it back.
Bueno, yo voy a preparar
Hey, Katie.
I just wanted to let you know that Sarah's in the office next door with a client. Okay. They might be suicidal. So Danielle's going to go there to respond.
Yes, I can definitely do that. Thank you for letting me know. I'll check in.
Okay.
Yeah. In that case,
that's what's up.
so,
I'm Lauren.
Lauren, Sarah told me that you may be struggling with some things. Can we talk about it? Can I help you?
Thank you for coming to the Client Wellness Orientation. If you have any questions or concern, feel free to speak to me or your case manager.
I really appreciate the information. I just have so much stress. I can relate. I can't sleep at night. My stomach is always upset. And I keep thinking about my family. Why am I here? And they're not. I just can't go on anymore. I want everything to end.
It sounds like you have a lot going on right now. Why don't you come to my office and we can talk through this a little bit more. So this is your... Hi. Would you mind getting my client a glass of water, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
hi, Gretchen. Hannah is in Megan's office with a suicidal client, and I am the support person.
Oh, okay.
Here's some water. Thank you. Of course.
So I'm meeting with client A, who's expressing some suicidal ideation. I followed the protocol, and I believe that she is suicidal and willing to accept help. I'm going to escort the client to Hall Mercer in a cab. Does that sound appropriate
I
to
think
you?
that sounds really good. Please let me know if you need anything, and let's schedule a debriefing meeting for tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
In order to effectively manage critical incidents, we need to know, first, what's happening. Second, what more information do I need? And third, what do I do about it? This is where the critical incident triage protocol come in. First, we will look at the critical incident triage protocol. As you review this protocol, you will see that it not only serves as an independent guide, but also supplements more specific critical incident protocol. The first 3 tiers outline an action plan when an NSC client is determined to be suicidal and therefore requires an immediate referral. Tier 1 provides guidance regarding clients who are voluntarily willing to get help. Tier 2 refers to clients who are voluntarily willing to get help and also have a concurrent medical issue. Tier 3 is for clients who are not willing to seek support. Tier 4 refers to aggressive clients, and Tier 5, homicidal clients. Also note that there's a special section for referencing what to do for minor clients. The triage protocol is a great introduction protocol as it helps staff to differentiate what is happening and also provides concrete direction in what to do. We hope that this presentation has given you the skills needed to avoid critical incidents, de-escalate agitated clients, and navigate the critical incident triage protocol. Thank you for your time and investment.